Yes, so yes. So, Fred, umemaliza ku draft your apology letter to on the phone.
Well, good morning. Welcome to this edition of Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Ndimuli. Today I'm in blue. Yes.
I'm also in blue because
in respect of Manchester City, the champions of the English Premier League. Manchester City. Congratulations to the big team.
It has still come to Manchester.
The biggest team in Manchester. Congratulations. And yes, nakubali. Manchester is blue, going forward. Nakubali. Good morning, karibu sana. This is a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Lot planned for you on this show. My name is Fred Ndimuli. How hot is the coffee where you are?
And I'm yours truly, Stanley Yerungita. This is how we kickstart your week. A marvelous Monday morning. We discuss matters health. Coming up around 8 a.m. Some uterine fibroids. That conversation, very, very important. And you're a passenger, you're a driver. Do you know the whole road safety tips that you need to know? Stick around for that at around 9 a.m. But before that, Matters State of the Nation will be coming up, the Monday panel.
Yes, the power panel. Kiputo Rapkirwa, Philip Kisia, Dr. Mumbingaro, and Samuel Pogisio will be in studio to try and chambua some of the big headlines, including what happened last week and what we expect. It is a very busy week this week. The president is in the U.S. We do expect at least a first batch of 200 police officers to head out to Haiti. Yes, and a lot of discussions happening. Finally, Rigiji showed up yesterday. So later on,
Masi Wanjiru as well as Peter Kakede will be giving us all those road safety tips that we need to know. But first, let's get into tell you what is in the headlines on the Daily Nation.
All right, and as we said, a lot to talk about. Ruto starts U.S. visit. We'll be looking at that. Gachagua fights back meanwhile. And yes, of course, the mention of what's happening in Matters football, but also in DRC, there was an attempted coup yesterday. I'm telling you, it is a very busy week. Meanwhile, in Iran, a helicopter carrying the president of Iran crashed yesterday, or had a hard landing, and rescue mission is still on. They're still not yet confirming the fate of the president. We'll hopefully get details as we continue.
On the Standard, they juxtaposition both of them as Ruto flies to meet Biden. Kenyans face gangs of Haiti. And they have the photo there of, what's his name? Yeah, barbecue. You're taking a look at the kind of videos from Haiti and how even the gang leaders are waiting for the Kenyan police. Today, this week, is going to be one of the ones that we do watch out for.
All right. Matters business. Safaricom condition throws M-Pesa split push into a spin. And we'll be looking at what exactly that spin is about.
Kwenye gazeti la Taifa leo, tutakufa na Rigathi, si maneno hayo yetu. Maneno ya wanasiasa kutoka Mlima Kenya. Wamewachapisha picha pale.
Tutakufa na Rigathi. Habari kuu pale.
I mean, all Gor Mahia also ilinyakua, lakini kama Wakenya wazungumzi hiyo sana.
The green. President Ruto, key mission in historic USA trip. Yes, the president is in the US starting today. And he left the country yesterday evening. An image of the president there meeting a pupil after a phone conversation as well. And you realize Rigiji is on all the front pages of the dailies this morning.
On People Daily, leave me alone, cries Gachagua. And, well, we take a look at that. But interestingly, Matters HIV on the front page of a Kenyan daily. We rarely get to see that. Yes,
but it's on a continental level. HIV trials in Africa offer hope for patients. All right, cross into the region. China back as Kenya, Uganda SGR financier, and it comes at a curious time when the president is in the US, so he's facing west, while the east is coming to our aid in as far as extending the SGR is concerned.
Well, other matters, Museveni Ruto seek review of Somalia force exit. They say the mission's troop drawdown plan must align with the security situation on the ground and not create a vacuum.
Right.
Those are just quite a number of highlights regionally. Now let's get into Uganda.
Mpuga, Bobby rift splits supporters, Matters politics, the big headline of the Daily Monitor, but also in Uganda, Matters football, SC Villa, and 2-decade wait for league title. Finally, they won the Ugandan league title, Ugandan Premier League, SC Villa. The champions there of the year. And I think this is more reasonable. We should be looking at such of these pictures even on our daily.
Yeah, true.
Gor Mahia should actually be on the front page as the winners of the Kenyan Premier League.
Oh yes, and not a very small section on the right strip of a daily.
You reserve at least some space there. I've seen some of the dailies with a big image, a big picture of Manchester City on the back page with no Gor Mahia. And you wonder,
doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Still in Uganda.
On the New Vision, Yoweri Museveni recalled Byakagaba and what awaits the new Inspector General of Police was in pages 4 and 5. And well, other matters, they also make mention of the Iran president in a helicopter accident. Let's get into Tanzania. Matters bank term limits, whole feud between the former prime minister, rather the child prime minister, as well as the governor of Bank of Tanzania. Other matters, Tanzanian makeup artist making waves in Hollywood. Mwishowe kule Bongo, kule Mwananchi.
Maumivu mapya yanakuja. Gharama kusafirisha kontena moja za paa kwa shilingi milioni 17. Bei za bidhaa kupaa zaidi. Wafanyabiashara, kampuni za usafirishaji zatoa tahadhari. Kisa uharamia baharini. So pirates have really made this section of the ocean, Indian Ocean, transport on that sea farers are finding it difficult. Matters transport once again leading on the front page of the Mwananchi. Let's take a look at the traffic. Quick traffic outlook in Nairobi. Being a Monday, a lot's happening, and wow. Okay, yes, this is much better. And I can see points of concern there at around the Pangani area. There's a bit of a snarl up there, but that's to be expected at that interchange. Meanwhile, Thika Road not looking so bad. Wow. Internet bado iko na shida. Mombasa Road also looking good all the way into town. Nothing to report about. Wayaki Way 2, not bad. Langata Road from Bomas of Kenya all the way to Nyayo Stadium, still looking good. And let's take a look at the situation on Jogoo Road, also not looking bad today. Of course, at Makadara there's a bit of snarl up there, but all the way into town, nothing out of the usual really. So traffic is typical of a Monday. Yeah, this is what you usually expect every day. Ngong Road, there's a bit of a snarl up here immediately after junction. So that could be a concern, yes, after junction and other sections of the road, Ngong Road, but once you get closer to City Mortuary roundabout, it's okay. There's a section of the road that appears blocked. This is between the roundabout of Nairobi Hospital and the City Mortuary roundabout. I'm not sure what's happening there, but it would appear that this section of the road is currently closed to traffic according to this map. So if at all you intend to use that section of the road, beware that this could actually affect your transportation or your movement to whichever direction you're going to.
Yes, if you're on that route, you can also tag us and just tell us what is happening and send us those particular videos. That is how the traffic is looking like. 11 minutes past the top of the hour. Let's take a look at how the weather might be looking like for today, as well as how it was yesterday. They say Sunday and Monday rainfall forecast maps according to the Kenya Meteorological Department. And just taking a look at some of this map. So this is for 19th May until today, around 9 a.m. Still as usual as last week. The chances of it raining in some bits of the country between around 70 to 80 millimeters is quite minimal in some parts of central region, borders of Nyahururu as well as Nyeri and Kiambu, the whole northern bit of it, receiving above, rather just average rainfall. Nairobi, quite minimal rainfall, and the whole green is about 10 to 15 millimeters, so the light showers really for today. And so this is now for today. That was until today 9 a.m. Then now for today 9 a.m. all the way to tomorrow 9 a.m. The map doesn't really change, and well, the same beats actually, just near Nyahururu heading into there. I'm trying to see which county this is.
Muranga.
Okay, yeah, Muranga. Beats, and as well as the northern beats of Kiambu. Those are parts that are going to be receiving rainfall above between 70 to around 80.
I think the other section that's going to receive a lot of rain is around the Mount Elgon area.
Yes.
and areas of Elgeyo Marakwet and such like areas there.
Interestingly, also Turkana, the
border with Uganda,
border, yes.
all that line. Turkana, West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, heading down towards Trans Nzoia. A lot of rain there.
Oh yes. Parts of western region, Nyanza region, Kisumu, Kisii County, the kind of rainfall that you'd expect to receive today is between 5 to around 10, rather 15 millimeters there. There's some average rainfall and just below kind of average rainfall. However, a majority of the country, -1 millimeters. That means chances of it raining in most parts of the country for today is very minimal. That is how the weather is looking like. And that cues us to our Today in History.
Today in History. On this day in 2021, former President Uhuru Kenyatta officially launched the Lamu Port, which aims to link Kenya to South Sudan, Ethiopia, and the Middle Belt of Africa.
All right. It's also a cue for us to get down, take a look at the main headlines. All right. I look at the dailies this morning, a lot to talk about. And as we said, the image of the Deputy President remains constant on all the front pages. We'll be telling you why. But the main headline on the front page of the Standard, as Ruto flies to meet Biden, Kenyans face gangs of Haiti. Two different missions. President William Ruto jetted out of the country yesterday and is expected to cut trade deals in the US and raise his profile. But in a few days, police officers will fly to Haiti to rein in lawlessness, a move opposed by many. It's covered on pages 4 and 5. Interestingly, they have the image of the president there, President Ruto, and one of the gang leaders in Haiti, the one known as Barbecue, making it to the front page of this daily. As I'd said, the other big story given prominence on this paper and on many others, and we'll see that, is what's happening to the Deputy President. Do not belittle DP, Mount Kenya leaders tell Ruto. The leaders say enough is enough on the humiliation regarding Gachagua has suffered in government and one of their many options. The story is covered on page 10 of this paper. And yeah, it's like, we've seen this before. I know you're young, but you must have seen what happened.
I must have seen, and it reminds me
that difference between a deputy president and the president.
And the president.
Do you remember?
I do remember. It reminds
you had started working, I believe.
It reminds me on Friday. I mean, you were talking about this. You had alluded to some of this bits on your highlight of the week on Friday, talking about how each and every single party is sort of quote unquote throwing stones at the deputy president.
Even the media reporting the whole of last week, it was just regarding Gachagua this, regarding Gachagua that, and it was not positive. It was mainly around the budgetary allocations to his office, and you wonder, why is everyone talking about this now?
It seemed like a whole trend that had been targeted.
There's so many other things to talk about. So yes, a lot was happening. It was definitely coming his way. More highlights on the front page of the Standard. Nakuru, a ticking time bomb as huge cracks emerge. Wow. Interesting. Elsewhere, presidential chopper in Iran crashes. We'll still get details of that. In business, wealth probe rattles KRA officials. And finally, Arsenal came so but failed to conquer. That's the big story in as far as sports is concerned. And the back page, yes, says it. Man City and not Arsenal are EPL kings. Na tumekubali. Yaishe and we move on. That's a Standard.
And the Daily Nation, Ruto starts U.S. state visit. And they have a three-quarter page of space of that story. They talk about matters trade deals, the Haiti mission, as well as matters health focus. And they call it a symbolic trip where President William Ruto has started his state visit to the U.S., a trip that seeks to further strengthen diplomatic and trade ties between the two nations. In his meetings with U.S. President Joe Biden, American politicians and business leaders, the head of state is also expected to make a strong case for Nairobi as Africa's top and most strategic investment destination. More is on pages 7 They also do mention what you talk about. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, the very top scroll, where just highlight what this paper is reporting. The Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's allies have alleged a plot within the ruling Kenya Kwanza Alliance to undermine the DP's authority, vowing to defend him. More is on page 4, and we take a look at what that means and the post-Limuru talks. On the right scroll, about 3 stories into politics. 2022 poll losers now eye key seats in UDA polls. And some of the 2022 poll losers who defected from their parties to join President William Ruto's UDA have entered the battle for key party positions with an eye to the 2027 general elections. Into education matters and look into the issues raised by striking doctors, GSS teachers, or striking JSS teachers rather. Mm-hmm. I think for days
so used to
striking doctors. State urged as a nationwide work boycott staged by the 46,000 junior secondary school GSS intern teachers enters its second week today. Unions have rallied behind the teachers while calling on the government to find an amicable way out of the stalements. This is, I believe, one of those things that you'll rarely see in Uganda. Teachers striking. Mm-hmm. Uganda is just one of those countries that if you're a teacher there, probably catered for well. International matters. President's palace hit and foiled a DRC coup. DRC foiled an attempt coup after gunmen tried to attack homes of senior government officials, including that of President Felix Tshisekedi. And takes us to the back page. What we were talking about. At least we should have seen half of this back page focusing on Gor Mahia.
Yes, who also won the title yesterday. Yes. Not some team from Manchester, which is being supported by the other team from Manchester.
Talk about how Guardiola won 6 titles for City, and they come to mention the Kogalo's win way into other sports pages, onto page 34, talk about Gor to boost squad ahead of CAF tourney. Wow. Anyway, that is in a nutshell the Daily Nation. On to the next.
Let's focus a bit on business, and I'm looking at the front page of the Business Daily. Safaricom condition throws M-Pesa split push into a spin. Remember, there were plans to have M-Pesa run as a different entity away from Safaricom. So they say that the split to be only considered if it adds value to investors. Safaricom's board is yet to approve the hive-off despite a push by the central bank. And yes, Safaricom is actually the biggest business. The M-Pesa is actually the biggest business for Safaricom currently. The other highlight on the front page, private sector credit growth drops to a 20-month low. Wow. Matters lending. On the ticker, aging staff crisis hits NSSF as 62% now above 50, meaning they'll be retiring in the next few years. Elsewhere, watchdog warns of terror financing threat in regional banks. And finally, new levy leaves UK mining farms stranded with 8 billion shilling iron ore. That's the front page of the Business Daily.
From the Business Daily, let's take a look at the Star, where they mention President Ruto key mission in US, in historic USA trip, and we'll be focusing on what this trip means and what his whole mission, the 3-day state visit, is going to be talked about. But other stories on the right scroll, you should not stab a brother in the back, says Gachagua. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua there. Rigathi Gachagua's Mount Kenya backers now want Ruto to rein in his allies from the region, trying to create a wedge between the two. They said there is a plot to isolate the DP from his boss. And this is probably history repeating itself. Or is it? One of the big questions that might come out of this week. A very interesting story, though, into matters corruption and education in Machakos County. The senators invite EACC to probe bursary issuing in Machakos County. So listen to this. Senators want the anti-graft agency to probe bursary distribution in Machakos. This is after zeros were allegedly added to bursary checks.
Kenya nchi yetu.
To benefit select students. And according to the Vihiga Senator Geoffrey Sotsi, they say this matter is a clear case of fraud. I'm curious how they were doing it. Naangalia huyu ongeza 02, huyu 03, huyu 01. My goodness. And finally, the very top scroll, lethargy hits implementation of BAMBA's peace deal report. That is, I believe, the only daily that has made mention of the BAMBA's peace deal report, among others. That is the front page of the Star.
All right. Tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo. Wanasema tutakufa na Rigathi. Habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo. Hawa ni viongozi kadhaa kutoka eneo la Mlima Kenya. Wandani wa naibu rais watoa onyo kwa yeyote anayepanga njama ya kummaliza kisiasa. Wanasema ni mtu wetu. Katika kikao cha Nyeri jana, wanasiasa kutoka ukanda wa mlima walijitokeza wazi kuwashambulia watu wanaomvuruga kisiasa naibu wa rais. Miongoni mwao ni gavana wa Nyeri Mutahi Kahiga, mbunge wa Embakasi North Bwana James Gakuya na mbunge wa Naivasha Jane Kihara. Kwingineko habari kuu na tunasema habari hii ingeangaziwa zaidi na magazeti mengi zaidi hapa Kenya. Gor Mahia yanyakua ligi ya KPL. Nafikiri tumeona tu kwa gazeti hili. Wengine wote wamenyamaza kimya, wanaongea tu kuhusu Manchester City.
No.
Na kwingineko Ruto anza ziara ya Amerika leo na maelfu ya Wakenya wapoteza makao. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
Let's take a look at People Daily. Leave me alone, cries Gachagua, is a big story. And they say under siege after missing in action and Kabak attacks during Limuru meeting of Mount Kenya leaders. The DP crawls out of the woodworks with allies claiming that he is being fought. This is on page 4. And according to, there's a quote there. Those elected should be allowed to do their work and execute their respective mandates. People should concentrate on their work. Actually, the fact that all the dailies are mentioning him, right now he is the man in charge of the country.
Oh yes.
Yes.
With the president away, the deputy takes over.
Until is it Wednesday?
I think, yeah.
Yes. So sahi akikohoa,
you know, back in the day, I remember a vice president who really took charge and did a few things while the president was away. That was Josephat Karanja while Daniel Moi was away. And when he came back, there are a lot of stories for the president to be told, hey, while you are away, and that was the end of him. So I know Gachagua is much smarter. He would not go that direction.
Oh, yes. The highlights focused on this page, and I mean, you take a look at People Daily, the very top scroll, a very huge section of Man City's win. Man City win record 4th EPL title in a row.
Yes, that's what we were saying. How do you have the EPL winners on the front page with such a huge image, yet Gor Mahia won the local league, and it's not there? Uganda, they've put an image of the league winners on the front page. Anyway.
Bado tunasema World Cup nini.
And it's not like the EPL is not an exciting league for Ugandans. They too follow Arsenal and Manchester City and Manchester United. But they're a bit patriotic when it comes to reporting about their local leagues. At least there should have been a mention of Gor Mahia on the front pages of...
Though I'm wondering, I mean, Tanzania is one of the... am I a Tanzania Asian? Because the one country that is...
They would definitely have it on the front page if their league was over. Yes.
Because I mean,
you do realize that none of the other countries have reported Manchester City's win on their front pages apart from Kenya.
Well, that in a nutshell is People Daily. Another story there, Ruto in tiff with Uhuru over office. And this just reminds me, Stars reporting on last week on how the spending of former President Uhuru Kenyatta, the former Prime Minister, as well as Kalonzo.
It was actually the biggest headline yesterday, I think, on the front page of the Sunday Nation. The fact that the former retired president's office has not been funded for 2 consecutive years. The budget goes to Parliament, is approved, but State House does not release that money. So what the story says is that the retired president now has to fund his own office, pay his own workers, and even fuel the official vehicles given to him by the state.
Despite a budget being there for that.
Despite the budget being approved by Parliament, 2 consecutive years. All right. A quick look at the cartoons, and Harry on the Standard page 12 has hapo ametupoteza.
Hey.
He's talking about the US election and campaigns there and people coming down in parachutes, Republicans, Democrats, and Harry, I think, hajashika Kenya vizuri.
Or rather, we need to understand Harry.
We are yet to understand where Harry comes from, or his perspective on a lot of things. But that's a cartoon on the Standard. At least the cartoon on the Daily Nation is one that we can quickly pick out.
Yeah.
IGA. This is about the two camps and what happened in Jubilee with the 2018 handshake, and now what happens in the next tent, NADCO report 2024. You see now what happened in Jubilee. This camel got into the tent, this handshake camel, and forced the deputy president then to leave that camp, that tent, and he's already in a yellow shirt. And then again, a shadow of the same, years later, NADCO report 2024 is also depicted there as a camel and about to enter another tent. Now, what will happen then?
Yes.
Is this what is forcing the deputy president out of this tent? Yes, that's a cartoon on the Daily Nation.
You take the similarity of the hats between the first camp and the other camp. The capes look quite similar.
Okay, I get you now.
You see it now?
Yeah.
On page 10 of People Daily, Stano's take has to do with matters the Limuru 3 and what was happening. It's actually a huge cloud, black cloud, after that mountain has erupted, and just around it there's a crown, and the commentator asks, Mount Kenya erupts, where is King Solomon?
Yeah, they need wisdom, King Solomon's wisdom, to heal the cracks within Mount Kenya. It is one of the biggest discussions we're going to have, and some of those people who attended Limuru 3 will be in this panel. Honorable Dr. Mumbingaru is in studio, and she'll be joining us. We do expect Samuel Pugisio, former Minister for ICT, and Kipruto Rapkirwa, former Minister for Agriculture, as well as Philip Kisia, former Town Clerk Nairobi, to be joining this panel this morning. A power panel every Monday, discussing the biggest headline. You don't want to miss this one. There's so much to talk about, especially what's happening in with the deputy president. But at least I saw him at the airport yesterday, seeing off the president. All right, that and a lot more coming up, so don't go away. Meanwhile, you can be part of this conversation through our social media pages online, on X at TV47 News, and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya.
Right. And Nyirungita_, talk to us. Later on at around 8 a.m, we'll get into matters health discussions, uterine fibroids. Do you have any questions on the same? We'll be having a family medicine specialist talking to us on the same, just answering your questions. You probably know someone who knows someone who has ever or just has uterine fibroids, and you really want to understand the gist of it. Talk to us. Then later on at around 9 a.m, the tail end of the show, we get into the whole road safety. It's a conversation that really touches all of us. You're either a driver, you're a passenger, or you're a pedestrian. Do you need to know the whole road safety tips? We'll be giving you all that in a few.
debates, people showed up. They are hungry. They wanted to hear the community leaders talk about their issues. But from where I sit, I think the timing was not right. The community has shown the divisions too early. So wamepangwa na wamepangika. Oh yeah.
Wamepangwa na nani?
Politics is about kupangwa na watu wengi. Yeah. So here you hear now the voice is about people that were not elected that are trying to be relevant. But everybody knows, it's not only in Mount Kenya, that the current KK government has issues across board about taxes and whatever else is happening. But now, it's like the system was waiting for the Mount Kenya group to come out and own the problem. And the rest of the country is still quiet. It is still quiet, like they are not affected by the taxes and the other things that are happening in the country. So I'm talking about the timing. Considering that is good for any community to meet and discuss their issues. I wish they would have done the Maasai way. You know, Maasais have a suswa. But before the suswa, the Ma community in the Samburu meet up wherever they are. They come down to Narok and Transmara, then come to Kajiado. They do their things from their counties, including the Mount Elgon. So by the time they come to Suswa, it's a way forward for the whole community. Okay. But this one, I'm praying that because it's not a very clear way forward that came out, and that's why you heard somebody suggest we are going to have a Limuru 4 and subsequent Limurus. I wish they had waited a bit because, yeah, I think they have exposed their cracks too early, and Watapangwa, Muranga, Nyeri. Now, yesterday was about Nyeri. It was in Nyeri. They were dealing with, you may have heard others from other counties, but it was Nyeri, yeah? Kiambu, Muranga, then you have Embu and Meru doing their thing. This is not unity.
Okay.
That is not unity. I wish my community well, and I will also take this opportunity to mention what happened in Thika on Friday. I am sure you are aware. Yes. It's my town, and send my condolences to the affected families. You can see what I'm talking about, Kiambu, Muranga, that the member of parliament, and everyone knows, a market is a county government thing. But we are having these unhealthy competitions that nobody is getting their time to work. So the confusion in the mountain is probably more pronounced than in the rest of the country.
The divisions are now clearer, more pronounced than the unity that they sought.
Yeah.
Okay. But Bwana Pugisio, one of the debates that came out from that Limuru 3 was on the issue of revenue allocation. And the 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote debate that is not really palatable, if I may use that word, in other parts of this country. Do you think that this probably is a gateway to revisit that discussion about revenue allocation?
Oh, thank you, Fred. And I think maybe the people who watch us here will know, and they have, of course, definitely read the papers about what happened, first of all, in Limuru. Just for it to happen, it's a success by itself. Because there are people who thought maybe they would be raided, invaded, chased, whatever, and everything went very well. For that, we can say, I think everything was successful. The sticking issue here is the issue of revenue sharing, allocation actually. And having been in this, since devolution started, that is a very, very divisive issue in the Senate and in Parliament generally. And so, like I said here last week, I was very surprised that the Deputy President himself would pronounce himself very categorically in a church, and he would say all his titles, including Deputy President, almost, and I think some other titles, that he is a proponent and a believer. And so when he did that, I knew already that, he was preparing or spoiling for a battle or war, because that is a very, very divisive issue in this country. Already, the consequences of 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote on the smaller counties and populations goes beyond allocation of resources. It will go to the core of representation. And of course, as you know, some of the constituencies might be scrapped completely if they don't meet the threshold. And so it's going to create another group now that is opposed to this. So all the small communities will have to get together to respond to this Limuru 3. It's sometimes very difficult for a big community to realize what they do when they sit together and come up with this kind of thing, because they affect the other citizens, most of whom are smaller communities that will depend on almost on empathy from the bigger communities. And so when the bigger communities come together and say we are categorical about this, they put like a nail, final nail, on that coffin, and the people who are suffering are the people like those I represent, and people of the northern Kenya and so on and so on, and parts of coast and other places that cannot marshal the numbers. If you go by numbers only, and this is what they're saying, 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, it is numbers, absolute numbers. If you go by the numbers only, and you don't consider that there are people, if I give you, for example, Turkana County. Turkana County is as a landmass of 77,000 square kilometers, but the population much smaller than 1 million, less than 1 million, or maybe about 1 million. So you can see those guys, for the same amount that you give a piece of land, that should account for something when you're calculating. So I struggled with this when I was majority leader. It was time, every time we came to that vote, it was the most divisive vote. Okay. The government had to use muscle to get sometimes through their formula, the formula for sharing. So yeah, I do agree with you. This is going to be very divisive. Okay. And I think those of us from the small communities are now, I guess from today, must look for each other and say, how are we going to respond? Okay. And how are we going to fight this back on this? How are we going to help our people? So we don't, we don't, for example, completely disappear. And some of us can completely disappear. Okay. So yeah, and to be very, by the way, just to say a thing, because this small area, Mount Kenya, for example, that this is Limuru 3, it's just about Mount Kenya. First of all, we are growing tribalism in this country so fast. But once we finish with that, what else are they going to demand? Okay. And that's my fear.
Now, with the Deputy President coming out prior to the Limuru 3 to declare that he's going to be the biggest proponent of this 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote mantra, That appears to have put him at crossroads with a lot of people, including the head of state, who's been very quiet on that issue. Bwana Kisia, a lot has been said about Bwana Gachagua and his position now within Kenya Kwanza, and even his position as deputy president. In fact, he features on all the front pages today. On the Daily Nation, he's on the top strip, and they say Gachagua fights back. On the People Daily, he is the biggest headline, "Leave me alone," cries Gachagua. On the Standard, says, "Do not belittle DP," Mount Kenya leaders tell Ruto. And on Taifa Leo, "Tutakufa na Rigathi," viongozi wa Mlima Kenya wanasema. He's also on the front page of the Star. "You should not stab a brother in the back," says Gachagua. Yesterday, at least, he came out for the first time in a very long time, and you even saw him see off the president at the airport. But there are a lot of questions, more questions than answers, on his position now as deputy president and as deputy party leader of UDA. Bwana Kisia, what's your assessment of what is going on?
Well, let me comment on what you've just said, but politics in Kenya is tribal. There's nothing new. Gachagua pretended for a long time that he's a nationalist, but he has now discovered that, unless you play tribal politics, you cannot survive. So there was a lot of heat that he was feeling emanating from the ground. I know my sister Mumbi is trying to behave like a nationalist, but the reality is that this is a tribal country, okay? So, there was a time Gachagua would pretend, but when you're pretending, sooner than later, things come out. So,
are you saying that he's doing this out of necessity?
Yes.
Because of the problems he's experiencing with the UDA?
Oh, yes. He has a huge constituency. Who do you leave it to? Do you leave it to pretense? No. You can only pretend for a long time, for whatever time you're pretending. But sooner than later, your true colors come out. So I don't see anything wrong with people meeting, like my colleagues have said. In any event, unity must start from the family level, then community, then national. You can't say we are united at the national level when at the family unit, you are so disintegrated. So let us learn to nurture unity and develop a foundation right from the family level. And this Limuru 3 thing, if it was nothing, would we be talking about it? It must have generated some heat. And I like the way the organizers of this meeting, crafted the whole thing. They avoided the issue of anointing a kingpin. They are very tactical. They said, we still have a kingpin, Uhuru Muigai wa Kenyatta. As and when he tells us he's tired, we shall now gather again and appoint a kingpin. They also are very tactical in the sense that they address issues that are affecting Mwananchi and issues that are affecting their community. Okay? They say, our unity is threatened. We've never been disunited. We need to relook at ourselves and protect our interests. So they picked on 3 thematic areas: political, social, and economical. Those are the issues that are affecting the community. Those are the issues that are affecting all the Kenyans. So from where I sit, I see nothing wrong in people meeting to review their interests, because it's a matter of interest. In any event, it's even recognized by the Constitution that communities must foster unity and protect their interests. Then they also, I think, for the first time, they felt the heat coming from Western Province. Tawe, the Tawe movement. Okay? So they came up with the Haki Coalition. There's nothing wrong. So this is a matter of competition. And as we move forward, we'll see, of course, more coalitions coming up. And the issue of 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, again, there's nothing wrong with that one. Because why should other communities suffer because of their numbers? I'm not saying that Pogisho, because of small numbers, they should be discriminated. But it gives them an opportunity to work hard and increase their numbers. Okay? They need to work hard. So why punish people who have worked hard to have good numbers? But having said that, it is the Constitution talks about fairness, and equity. You can't give Pogisho more money because they are few. That's their problem. That's their challenge. Their men should work hard or invite us to support in whatever way.
Okay.
So
yet there are those who argue that there are some smaller communities where they produce more.
No, 1 second, which is good. So they also benefit. But this issue of saying that counties, some counties will suffer or some communities will suffer, that's why we have the equalization fund. That's why we must focus on and enhance that fund. So that for the next maybe another 10 years, those counties are equalized through the equalization fund. My problem is, this is the third cycle of devolution. What have the counties done with the billions of shillings that have gone to the counties? Okay. Billions of shillings. Have we seen anything in Pokot that we can talk about with the billions of shillings that have gone there? Can we see something significant in Turkana with the billions of shillings that have gone there? What have these counties done to even enhance their internal revenue collections? Okay. We can't say we are independent or we are a unit, we are a government, and you are relying on somebody else, to take care of your needs. Okay. You can't. I mean, I think there's time now we actually review the entire architecture of our constitution. Okay. Some of these counties don't, they should not even be existing. Okay. They should be wiped out or merged so that they become viable. That's my view.
Bwana, the debate about revenue allocation appears to be one of those things that people will be talking about, especially going towards 2027. Do you think we have started that debate on the right footing?
Well, friend, allow me just to begin with Limuru 3. And with Limuru 3, the danger is when the people from the mountain meet, it becomes news even before they meet. Otherwise, we've been hearing many communities meeting here and there, and it has not been an issue. My also fear is that they seem to be guilty of crimes they have not committed. The fact that they command about 26% of the population and perhaps a higher percentage of votes, up to about 30, is not a crime. It is a product of history. It may be accidental, but it was not deliberate. What worries me about resources is that now we are lifting the issue of resources to a higher level of the issue of belief. Because it is no longer about resources, because resources can be shared and you resolve a conflict. But when the conflict reaches that of a belief, then it ceases to be an issue of resources and requires another level that is too complex to resolve. My take is, let's compare 3 counties. West Pokot, with a population of about 600 to 700,000 people. Trans Nzoia, which in terms of landmass is a quarter of West Pokot, with a population 1.5 times that of West Pokot. Come back to Kiambu, with a population of 2.5 million people, and it's the same landmass as Trans Nzoia. Now, when you are dealing with the 3 counties, how do you resolve them? Yes, population should be a factor, but should not be an exclusive factor. And Fred, it is only that we are deliberately dishonest to ourselves. If we are honest about resolving that issue, you don't need even to look for a university professor. A good student at the University of Nairobi, doing statistics and a bit of IT, and you tell them to give you the permutations, they'll be able to move until they give you a scale factor that yes, the population should contribute to this much. The land mass, and it's not just land. There are certain challenges in terms of terrain. Some of the areas to reach from one division to the other takes a lot of time and a lot of resources. So we must think about also the land mass, because it is a factor that we found with us. But how much should the land mass contribute? The third component, which is also important, is the issue of historical challenges. I don't want to say injustice. When the British came to Kenya, they decided to settle in certain parts of this country, including the 1 million acre land that they gave us back through the SFT system. Those areas were conferred advantages compared to some of the closed counties or districts like Pokot, like Masailand, and many other parts of this country. So those are historical challenges, not injustice visited by the first regime. Because the danger, Fred, is that any time it is said, they look at President Kenyatta, Kenyatta 1, as the perpetrator of all these ills, and they forget 70 years of colonial history that visited this country, a lot of disparities. Some of us were forced to go to Tanzania because they said in the land where we occupied, when they came, that you can only keep only 4 animals, and later on you cannot have an animal. And for us, dowry, we pay through 5 cows. And if I have 3 sons, and the first son is married...
No one could afford dowry for even one.
I may not afford even for one. So we went to Tanzania, we went to Pokot, because in Pokot there was breathing space, because it was a closed county. Some of them went to Uganda. Some came all the way to Laikipia. Some went to Masailand. And some of our people went all to Shimba Hills. So these are historical challenges that as a country we must accept as leaders. But people conveniently misuse that. Some of the people telling the Kikuyus not to be tribal, they used 2 cards at home. When President Ruto was campaigning at home, he was using 2 cards. When he's at home, he says, I'm the only one closer to the position from this community, and therefore give me the opportunity to get there. When he moves away, now he creates another narrative, the hustle and the dynasty, so that he looks national in approach, but internally, all these individuals are very tribal. So let us do what Mboya said. Let us look at the tribe as a positive attribute, because every tribe has some value. And let's not look at Kikuyus as if they are the main problem of Kenya. If you are to remove Kikuyus from Kenya with their economy, where will Kenya be left?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's focus a bit on this story that we cannot ignore, and that's Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's wars, if I may call them that. He appears to be quite uncomfortable, and it came out yesterday when the leaders in Nyeri spoke, and they really talked, and they said, what came out was that, yes, our man is under siege. Many people had tried to deny this. Even the State House spokesperson, the president's spokesperson, yesterday denied this and denied any existence of a rift between the president and his deputy. But we've seen this before when those 2 leaders do not agree. The example between the president, retired President Uhuru Kenyatta, and his deputy then, William Ruto. Do you think it's the same thing happening all over again?
Let me first correct an impression. I think Philip today, his main that spot is not there, so he's picking on me and Honorable Pogiso. I don't pretend to be a nationalist. I am one. It's on record. And I have no issues with it. I don't have to prove it to anybody. I am comfortable and I'm in my skin. I have a Kikuyu name. I live with them. They are my people. And one of the things that I will not agree with is that because we are Central Province, we are Kikuyus, we make our thing and marginalize the rest of the country. I have never agreed with that for this one reason. I grew up in a semi-arid area. Me, I know poverty. There's nothing to celebrate about poverty. But were it not that I would access education then, probably I would be a maid in somebody's house. And therefore, I would want every child in any part of the country to access whatever can make a difference in their lives. And this is why I believe in devolution. Those of us who were in the constitution-making process know it was a thorny issue. And that's why Honorable Pugiso is talking about the small tribes and the major tribes. But just to mention one thing, the Kikuyu population and their numbers, there is no way, unless you want to be very unfair, for women in West Pokot to give birth to 10 children. In my family, where I am born, we are 12. Mm-hmm. We are 12. Because the facilities then, irrespective of the poverty, you would move to a health center, a mother would move to a health center that is just near them, give birth and walk home. You know, I have gone to counties in this country where a health center is 80 kilometers and there are no roads to that health center. So you expect this pregnant woman to go on a donkey and a camel to that health center and produce 12 children, like my mother. There are some things that we cannot discuss here. And therefore, even as we talk about the population that we have, going to draw water, I used to carry water for about a kilometer to the river. Okay. But the ladies in other counties, in northern Kenya, work for half a day to get mutungi, ride on a donkey, walk back another whole day, and the same woman will use that mitungi to cook, to clean, to do anything. So those are not conversations that about equity and equality that we can bring here. Okay. And therefore, I remain a nationalist. Okay. I am going to talk about those things. Okay. To the, over that, I come now to the issue of the deputy president. Let me tell you, I don't think he would even know my face. I am not a member of his political party, but I will defend him because he is the vice president and he comes from a region I come from. So I literally will not really entertain people who will disrespect him. Okay, I know he has had issues. You know, everybody knows. He's, okay, that's why somebody said he's...
what?
He has improved, you know. So many things. But leadership is also about growth. It's about personal growth. But those of us who are also leaders and opinion shapers, we should help the rest of the community, the rest of the Kenyans, to allow him that growth. The lift between him and his boss, you don't need a microscope. You know,
see it?
It's already there. But it is there. And the best thing for him, it is not him to talk about it. If I were him, I would have by now looked for people who are wise, people who can help him out of this.
What kind of help would he require? Is it a reconciliation with his boss, or because there are those who argue it is time for him to forge his way forward? Bwana Pugisio.
Thank you again. A new position. If you become deputy president from absolutely somewhere, you know, you're not actually anticipating to be deputy president, because I mean this is something thrown at him, and now he has to swim basically in these waters, and then my problem, I think, if I were to advise, is that there is already a deficit, what you call a trust deficit, in the relationship. And it happens all the time. You look at our deputies everywhere in the counties, the governor and their deputies, every president and their deputies, even a minister and their deputies, those days when we used to have deputies, this position called a deputy always comes with its problems. So you need to understand, first of all, you are a deputy and your role is to deputize. But you see, what I've seen in the recent past is a deputy becomes almost a personal friend to a president, wants to be everywhere the president is, every day, everywhere, and wanting sometimes to act like they are the president, issuing statements and policies. That's the recipe for those relationships to start. And the heat becomes too much. Secondly, I think one of the undoings that faces my friend Gachagua is that he started picking on too much from a very small area. All his programs are in one area. You know, he's focusing on the mountain from the very beginning, so he's just on the mountain, and he's fighting the things that feed the mountain people, you know. So he's trying to deal with, okay, this illicit brew is just illicit brew, but really it's somebody's business, right? And so that's a figure. But are you fighting illicit brew only in the mountain? Are you fighting these issues of coffee only in the mountain? Are you fighting these issues of tea only in the mountain? It's the same thing in this government, which I find very strange, that somebody who is in charge of education is always in his county. Every good thing from education is always in his county. The other one, I think ICT, is in his county every weekend. So we have actually proved to this that these people are not nationalists. And if you're not nationalist, you're going to face problems. So the DP has problems because he has got into this space. That is, we used to think those days under retired President Moi, that power is like fire. Yeah, if you go too close, it will burn you. If you get too far, of course, you get cold, and you are not going to be cold. And so you have to be somewhere and maneuver the thing. So I always have a problem with people who want to feel like, in this government, I've noticed it, they want to feel like they're presidents.
Do you think that the current president did the same to his boss?
Of course. It really began from about 2013. If you look at past presidents, a vice president kept his distance and allowed the president a chance. But when it's in a mix, you look like you're a twin. And it started with 2013. Guys wearing the same shirt, the same tie, the same shoes. I think they call each other in the morning and say, today we're wearing this kind of thing. And it is the problem of today. So even in this one, every little appointment the president has with somebody, you want to be sitting next to him. The president also requires some space. But the people who advise him also are fighting him. So the fight is both something that we see nationally, but inside Mount Kenya itself. There is a rivalry that's going on. Everybody knows. You don't need a microscope, as my sister says here, to know that there is a strong rivalry for the position already. So he's fighting for his life to maintain Mount Kenya as a kingpin, but at the same time to maintain his position as a deputy. And it's too much for one person. It's really too much. So fortunately, he has a pastor in the house. So I hope that the prayers around there are the ones sustaining him.
He needs prayers.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's listen to the deputy president as he spoke yesterday in Mary. Then we continue this conversation.
Words. For now, let us bring down political temperatures. Let those who have an opportunity to serve be allowed to serve the people.
Issue.
Hii mambo maneno mingi imeongewa hapa ya siasa. I will say nothing. The reason being, Rigathi Gachagua, Deputy President, is a man of few words.
All right. This is the second time he's actually using his title, Bwana Kisia. He did so the other Sunday. He said, Rigathi Gachagua, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Yeah.
And now this Sunday he's done the same. It seems as if he's not so sure about his position as Deputy President.
I think even from the demeanor, from what we've seen, at least from my interpretation, even the way he has communicated, he looks a little bit beaten. and he's trying to come out to reaffirm himself, which is not necessary. I think the problem, like my brother Pogisha said, is we started way back in 2013, where there was no space, there was no, I think they were trying to behave as if they were buddies. And this thing has continued. It's like a love affair. They have forgotten that they are holding very, very serious offices. And they're there to perform certain functions, and that the public holds them in very high esteem. And I'll go off tangent a little bit to explain myself. Even the President of America, the most democratic nation in the world, the most powerful nation in the world, the country that has an abundance of resources, probably one of the most civilized nations in the world, you can never find a president having that lovey-dovey, sort of relationship with the deputy. Here, I've seen cases where people are very top level, in my view, are behaving very inappropriately. Like if I was the MD of a company, there was no way, even in private, I can go and hold my deputy or my director of the opposite gender in a way to suggest that we are close. So those are some of the things that, when you're in public space, you need to be very careful with, because they are bound to receive certain interpretations. People will read different things. So I think they need now to, they've been in the office for, it's going to about 2 years. They need to understand that time is running out.
Is it too soon for the cracks to emerge 2 years into the administration?
These two were not brought together because they share the same ideology. Their marriage is a marriage of convenience. If you remember, Ricky was nowhere 2 years before election. He was nowhere. But now it was a matter of balancing. I mean, if I take this one, do I get the votes? If I get this one, what is the implication? So, you picked the one who was convenient, not because you shared anything in common. So that is what happened with Rigiji. And the cracks even, I think, delayed. They should have even come out much earlier. But, they were both pretending that, we are together and in one party and, we share the same ideology and we are going to work. It was pretense. But when you're pretending, Fred, it doesn't take too long before it comes out. It is delayed, in my view. It will come out much earlier.
Wow. But Akirwa, now what do we expect to see in the next 3 years before 2027 elections? Because 2 years, many people might argue it's too soon. There's such a long way to go before the next election for an opportunity probably to change the formation. But if at all they continue disagreeing, we saw what happened when Deputy William Ruto, as Deputy President, disagreed with his boss. Yeah. And there was a lot of political heat. If it happens again, this could portend not so positive things for this country.
Yeah, Fred, before I get to that level, let me conclude my last statement that perhaps the leaders of Limuru 3 should have improved their communication by identifying issues that cut across the nation so that it doesn't look like it is Kalenjin, Kikuyu. So that they are able to say in Western Kenya, these are issues that should be done. In this other part, these are the issues that should be done. And in that way, they would be communicating to many Kenyans because these issues cut across. Even the 1 man, 1 shilling vote. Some of us, if we were to be selfish, we would support it because Nandi, Uasin Gishu and Trans Nzoia would become very great beneficiaries of that. But what I've said is that there are 3 components because I don't want anybody to confuse my thinking. Okay. 1 is the question of the people. 2, the landmass. And Mheshimiwa Mumbi has put it very well. A lady going 80 kilometers to find a dispensary is not like a lady who just gets into an Uber and she's in hospital. Then the 3rd one are those historical challenges. Those are the 3 things that if we are able to remove ourselves from pretense and we sit down I've told you, a second-year student at the University of Nairobi can resolve that issue.
Okay.
Now, let me come back to the issue. Mheshimiwa Bokisha has broadened my thinking, because it is not between Rigathi and the president. It is not Uhuru and the president alone. Almost all deputies. I was in Meru the other day, and I could see, listening to the deputy governor, he seems not to be reading from the same script with his governor, and many other places that we care to think about. So my take is, why don't we recalibrate the position of the deputy president or deputy governor so that there is harmony, by ensuring that we have some measures, including if you are a deputy governor and you want to run in the same county, you stay away for 5 years from that position, so that you come in as an individual, so that you do not confuse the position of deputy and that position of wanting to be the next governor.
Would you say the same for the position of president?
Even for the position of the president. That would make our politics more neat. But now, when you look at it, in these 15 years that we have had the privilege to live through, it was Uhuru and Ruto. Now it is Ruto and Rigathi. Who is the common factor? When we were doing basic maths, we used to have those combinations. You say, what is the common factor here? So you cancel out. So Ruto may actually, up to now, be the main culprit responsible for undermining his post and ignoring his deputy. Because he has to exonerate. Because you see, nobody up to now has told us why did Uhuru part ways with Ruto. Because it would have assisted us to understand the genesis of parting ways. But the challenge now is that we kept it a secret. This one of Rigathi, we don't need a microscope. We see there is a crack, but nobody wants to talk about the crack. The better we come out and we talk about some of these issues, will not inform us about the arrangement between Ruto and Rigathi. It will assist us look at the future. Okay. Now, if I was to give advice to Rigathi, the NDC of UDA is coming in soon. And if he's, for some reason, likely to be shunted out of the position of deputy, because now there is one deputy, unless they were to amend the constitution again, their constitution. If he realizes he's going to be shunted from that position, what he should do is to take the walk and prepare himself for the next election.
And have his own outfit.
Have his own outfit.
Like Bwana William Ruto did.
Yeah.
And now you said something very interesting, because it takes us to the next conversation. This issue of relationships between the deputy and the president, and what happens after that. Now we're seeing a situation where William Ruto is now the president, and his boss is now a retired president. Yesterday on the front page of the Daily Nation talked about the kind of relationship they have up until now, and the fact that it would appear the president now is hitting back at his boss by denying him funding, denying his office funding. And on the front page of the Daily Nation yesterday, he talked about issues like fueling of the vehicles for the president, funding, even paying staffers, despite all these requirements being part of the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act, which is actually law. But you can see this kind of enmity between the boss and someone who potentially could be the boss. It has issues after. Do you think that probably the proposal by Bwana Kirwa that once a deputy, then you're no longer eligible to run immediately after your boss exits office could be part of the solution?
I'll look at it from a different perspective. Just here where we are seated, ask ourselves who can tell the name of the vice or deputy president of Tanzania, of Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, because the countries in the EAC are increasing in number. There are very few who can tell you who the deputy president or vice president of Her Excellency, the president of Tanzania is. Yeah. That tells you that in Kenya we have a problem. And it is not just political. Even the people who handle the technical people, civil servants, fuel this problem. I'll let out a secret. It's not a secret now. I'm not in Yala. I can talk about it freely. When President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy, William Ruto, got into office, two things happened. There was the National Prayer Breakfast, and there was the Labor Day. And the deputy president then, before he invites the president, would issue a policy statement that is not done by him. It should be done by his boss. One of the heads of states, of the partner states, called me and said he wanted to see me. I didn't know what I had done, so I went there and I was nervous. Yeah, I was very nervous because I didn't know what I had done. And he asked me directly, if your boss, he knows my boss, my party leader, Raila Amolo Odinga, would be the president, would you allow him to be mistreated or to be embarrassed by his deputy president? I didn't know where he was coming from, so I said, no, I wouldn't allow it. And he told me, go to your president, he is your brother, you come from the same county, and tell him that he is embarrassing us. You cannot have your deputy president joking about I don't know what in a national prayer breakfast at that other one. I reminded that president that I am in the opposition and I can't even reach my president. And I told him, okay, I cannot reach him. He insisted that I come from the county where the president comes from, and there is no way I would not know somebody who would pass that message in a friendly manner. He paid my ticket, and I came to Nairobi, and I looked for a mzee. I am not going to talk about the names. And when I told that president, give me your number, that when I get to this person that I'm suspecting, I'll be able to call you and you give that message to him to pass to the president. And I came home. And I got that mzee. And I called that number. And that president picked. Our people are interesting. The mzee told me, Mheshimiwa, how can you call the president that I talked to him? If I wanted to talk to my president, I will talk to him. You cannot, that kind of thing. I said, just pick the call and you will know who is, because I said, Your Excellency, the mzee that I promised you I'll get, he's here with me. So, la. And he picked the phone and said, I am so-and-so, and I am the one who sent huyo mtoto wenu. And asked him to pass that message. And it was passed. And those who know how to observe, like Akina governance experts, Philip Kisia, can say that they saw a change where he's talking about we are seeing changes in dressing and demeanor and that kind of thing. It changed. So it's not new. And because probably in the first term, the other person walked out, he also needs, my deputy president now, Rigathi Gachagua, also needs somebody who can remind him that when they're in the same meeting with the president, his job is not to give the policy statement and tell the people how many times he was put in. I think that is behind us now, is to welcome him and say, these are your people, today is your day, and leave it at that. So we have a lot of learning to do. I don't know who does it. It can be done. Coming to the issue of you know, how it's being done. It's okay. We have got new, young, and inexperienced people. And it is good because they have to learn from somewhere. But probably, I don't know what happened to government training. I'm not an expert, so I've become very careful. But during our time, we used to be taken for those induction courses. And it was not only the once. We used to go for refresher courses. We even did exams, to be graded. I remember when I was in Arusha and we have to speak in Kiswahili. We had to be graded. You are given 5 minutes to go and address the assembly, so that our trainers know where to place you. And we had some in Bepe class. I'm like I was in diploma, in a diploma class. So we shouldn't be ashamed of not knowing. It's not a mistake.
Issues of protocol
and protocol, but we must be willing to learn. And the problem is that they have come in, they know everything. They don't want to see Honorable Pogiso, because when he tries to say this one can be done, we are not. Rest at your time. We are expired. No, we are not. Let them learn from those who are there. Even us, wherever we've gone to offices, even as little as the councillor's office that I first occupied, I was inducted. I was, you know, it is not wrong. Nobody, we shouldn't say they are new. Yes, but they must be willing.
Okay. And we need to take a break. When we come back, we continue with this conversation about how the retired president is being treated. Oh, I'm told we already moved on. Okay, fine. Let's come to you, Bwana Pogisio. And the question now is about how this president is treating his former boss. The enmity was created when they were both working together. Now, it would appear that this has gone even beyond the retirement of President Uhuru Kenyatta, that State House is not releasing funds to his office.
Well, thank you very much. I think one of the things that people never learn is that if you're a president today, you'll be a retired president tomorrow. And that is a given. And most of the people who punish their predecessors, you know, end up also being punished. So that's a warning shot, right? That anybody who's trying to treat retired President Uhuru Kenyatta badly. First of all, fortunately, it's not that he needs these things, you know, literally, but it is a constitutional matter. It is the law. He is entitled, and he's not the only one, by the way. All retired speakers of the National Assembly, Senate, when they retire, even after one term, they're entitled to so many things retire. The same thing with our disciplined forces and so on and so on. It is a constitutional thing. So if you delay, for example, somebody's entitlements, and the retired president is driving a car which should have been replaced, you know, are you not endangering the life of that person? If the retired president cannot fly to destinations, you know, and that is money, that is not your money. This is monies which are in the country. In fact, I'm very surprised that we are even talking about it as a country. I think it's very embarrassing to even hear that we are discussing an issue the former president cannot fuel his vehicles. They're not his personal vehicles, first of all. This is government, and there is a way to give him that resource. So that's one thing which is very embarrassing. The other thing which is, in my view, is going to have to be telling of this country is that while you are denying that president his perks, you are actually asking for more than 1 billion shillings to renovate a building which is not your own building, you know? And in this country, I don't understand whether we think we are so rich that every person can ask for 1 billion out of the remaining billions that we have, you know. And if you look at it, the requests are amazing. So here you're denying a retired president who is is retired. I mean, that's part of his retirement. That's like his pension, right? You cannot deny somebody that pension. You have a very patient former president. Because he has not said anything. It's the people who are raising these issues. And I believe that there will come a time very soon that even if you showed Madarao to the former president, which they have done, they've done invading his farm, doing all these things. You have actually done that. But why do you go to the extent of exposing yourself internationally? You are now in the US, right? This government is there now, asking for help and things like that. But some of these questions, by the way, will come to haunt them.
Yeah.
I mean, they are not very menial, they are not very small. You can be asked the same question even when you're in the US. What is this thing that we hear? Because Uhuru Kenyatta is not a small person. He has been the president of this country for 10 years. He's an internationally connected person. And right now he's doing international duties. And then at home, we treat him like this. It's not right. I think all I can say is that it's very embarrassing for a country like Haiti, even for us to be discussing this matter here. If I were in this government, that is the first thing, first of all, I would fix. And I hope before even anything, it goes to Washington, D.C., he should order that it should be fixed. And let Uhuru Kenyatta be solved. But first, in any case, he is the only retired president we have. Yes. It's not like in the past when we had 2 or 3. He is the only one. And when we had 2, we were able to meet them.
They were taken care of correctly. And the story on the Sunday Nation yesterday revealed quite a lot, Bonakisia, including a raid that apparently happened days after the new president took over at one of the residences of the retired president. And elite soldiers raided the house and left with 4 vehicles that the president had left with. That was a piece of information that not many people had. But the question is, could we be setting a dangerous precedent? We've seen something like this happening in Zambia, where after a while, every new president puts the former president, his predecessor, in jail for a few weeks. We saw it with President Kaunda, we saw it with Chiluba, we saw it with the other one. Could we be setting a dangerous precedent for ourselves?
I think, Fred, I could not put it any better than you've done. It's a bad precedent that we are setting. We've had presidents before. We had Mike, and then the late President Daniel Arap Moi, who maybe to others didn't treat his opponents very well. Kibaki took over, and he treated Moi with a lot of decorum, a lot of respect. We never saw what you're seeing right now, okay? And as Pogisha said, you know, these are public resources. These are public offices. They are transient. You are there today, be sure you'll be out tomorrow, either through a constitutional means or an unconstitutional means. It is transient. So this matter that we are talking about is extremely embarrassing. My brother Pogisho doesn't know that our president left last night to the US. He's saying when he leaves, he has already left. He's already actually airborne. These benefits are not personal. These benefits are tied to an office. In this case, the President's Retirement Act of 2003. It clearly spells out what a retired president, is entitled to. There are entitlements. So whether you love or hate Uhuru, respect the fact that President Uhuru was the 4th President of the Republic of Kenya for 10 years. That you cannot discount. That you cannot wish away. So really, it's a matter that it's even, you know, it's tiring to discuss. It is embarrassing. It actually exposes the people who are currently in power. It actually confirms that they are very vengeful. It confirms that they're extremely uncouth. It confirms that they are completely uncivilized. It confirms that these people have rough edges that need to be removed for them to hold such a high office. When you hold high office, like the presidency, you are the symbol of national unity. There are certain things that you must now do away with. Get off those rough edges, you know? So President William Ruto needs to appreciate that he is no longer a KANU youth winger or a KANU operative or he is the president of the Republic of Kenya. You can imagine how they treated Mama Ngina Kenyatta. Our grandmother, this lady has been the first lady, actually the first lady of the Republic of Kenya. You raid her home, you withdraw her security, you do all manner of things, you start harassing President Kenyatta's family, children, and what have you. What the hell is going on with this government? Does he think that he will die in office? Maybe he will, we don't know, that's God, you know. You know, now you see President Raisis is nowhere to be found. He's nowhere. And I'm sure he's flying one of the best choppers, but he's nowhere to be found. And I'm praying that he's found, that Allah will protect him. So when you're holding high office, remember that it is transient. Remember that a time will come and you will go. And the way you treated people, expect that they'll treat you in a similar manner. Supposing and it's my prayer, and I hope you're praying for me, I become the Cabinet Secretary Interior in 2027. I will teach this man a good lesson, that you don't behave that way. And there's a way of behaving.
That's a concern that once you start that way, having this kind of treatment of retired presidents and other retired leaders will become a normal thing. Right now we are seeing the deputy president and the president complaining, the deputy president complaining about the same.
Yeah.
The deputy president has a very high chance of becoming president at some point. Isn't that a political risk that we're just looking at and poking holes into?
Yeah, from the community that I come from, we say when one bewitches a he-goat or a bull, you don't bewitch the other. So don't pay evil with evil. But I think our national conversation should be lifted. Even I would want my good brother, Philip, to withdraw that he's going to deal with William Ruto. Should he be the Minister for Interior?
No,
we will actually handle him with a lot of care, with a lot of respect. So
that's what I said.
Okay. I thought you said you are going to teach him a lesson.
I'll show you how somebody should be handled properly.
Oh, yeah.
In decorum and respect.
Oh, yeah. That should be the case. The way Kibaki, despite the fact that he was humiliated, including being demoted to a minister from a position of a vice president, he took over the ministry. He did so well. And when he took over office, he never mentioned in any adverse way the name of former President Daniel Arap Moi. In fact, in our cabinet deliberations, we were considering on how to ease out the president or the former president from the house he was occupying in Cabernet Gardens. And he asked the basic questions: who is living there? We told him he's so and so. Can't he continue living there? Then we look for another place for a deputy, for a vice president. And that's what the former minister, Amos Kimunya, took the title deed in the name of President Moi. That is the way it is. Because he knew some of these things belong to us when we are here. When we go, they will still be left behind. So I would expect that without using the heavy language of my good brother Philip, I would expect that we need to have a national conversation, that we elevate some of the issues, and we realize that retirement benefits are actually constitutionally protected. There is no way that money will never get back to President Uhuru Kenyatta one day. But we are lucky, we have somebody who can finance himself. Imagine if it was somebody like Pogisio with 5 cars to fuel, and he's a former president. He would be in serious trouble. Remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta went to swearing in DRC using a plane from Uganda, perhaps extended to him by President Museveni, because they refused to give him the necessary protocol to get his flight to DRC. These are things that will reduce the image of our country to a level that is not acceptable, either internationally or in any other diplomatic circles. This is something that worries me, and we say we are embarrassed, but we are talking about it so that we condemn it, and they realize that this is bad manners at worst.
Okay. And that is a big story. I think it features also on the front page of the People Daily today. It talks about state pushing Uhuru to use late Kibaki's office. Of course, the preferred office for the retired president is along Dennis Pitt Road. But I want us to move on as we get closer to the end of the show, and we talk about one thing that I'm sure Bonakisi has been very busy with this weekend, and that's the issue of the deployment of Kenyan police to Haiti. It features on the front page of the Standard, yes, and the headline reads, as Ruto flies to meet Biden, Kenyans face gangs in Haiti. 2 different missions. And you have an image there of one of the more famous gang leaders in Haiti, the one called Barbecue. A lot has been said about Kenya's deployment of police to this troubled nation. And the president has remained adamant, despite so many people coming out to say this should not happen. It is happening this week. Even the latest attempts to try and block it may not really be successful given the time frame we're looking at. This is a done deal. The president appears to be adamant, if I may use that word, stuck to his ways, that if I decide this is what will happen, it will definitely happen.
I read through a petition that was done by our colleague here, Philip, and Dr. Aukot and Wakabando, and I sent him a message to congratulate him because of the clarity and speaking for the voiceless. This is some of the things that we are talking about, a president who may not listen to the voiceless, and maybe that's why presidents want to rule for life, because they don't want such things to come after them. Honorable Waziri, when he sat with Kibaki, during the Bosire Commission on Goldenberg, and was it Goldenberg or something like that? I was not a cabinet minister, but I was still working with my party leader. And I can authoritatively say, people from where I come from had said, Moi must appear before the Bosire Commission. And my party leader, my current party leader, was a minister with you.
With us. Yeah.
And he went to then President Kibaki and told him, we cannot, as a government, please get the retired President Moi to sit in that commission. We must respect we are a retired president, and we shall set a bad president. He is here. I was not in the cabinet. If he wants to confirm it, it is okay. We should be careful. And for this deployment of the police, I remember in one of the shows you asked me about it, and I said this one is human sacrifice, because everybody is screaming, please don't do it. And like you say, it's almost a done deal. So what do we do? Do we support the petition? And I am only hoping, because the court in Kenya had ruled that we shouldn't put ourselves in that kind of a situation. So we, with due respect, I am lack of words to call out to the president. I'm not as strong as Philip, because I I was recalibrated because of this regional exposure that what you say, you are also training. We are also training from this panel how we communicate about our seniors and the rest of it. So I would urge him to reconsider. And unfortunately, I did see, if my memory serves me right, the First Lady also now calling for prayers to pray for this mission because it's a good mission. And I said, oh my God, we believed during our time that the First Ladies were being used. During Kenyatta time, I knew Mama Ngina, you'd get a message of dissent slowly to her, and she would have ways of discouraging the head of state. And it happens also in other countries. We know about it. My seniors here can tell you that even when they were ministers, there are messages that they wouldn't get from their PSs because they had miscalculated their thoughts. And people would get through their first ladies and pass a message, and I'm sure they would listen. So when the First Lady now comes in to support this, it becomes a worrying situation. The Attorney General is disconnected. So do we have a unified government? I don't know where we are. And this is why sometimes I feel like we are in autopilot and we have only one pilot, hoping that he doesn't doze off because we know the consequences of him dozing off when we are up there.
On this issue of Haiti, Bwana Pogesi, what is your assessment? 200 officers, the first batch will be leaving. I think they've already left probably this week.
Fred, one of the, what we call the principles of trust is actually clarity, how clear you are. I saw the other day a piece of a small kid. The father just said, "It's chukua simu, weka kwa moto." And the kid did literally that. Went to the kitchen, put it there, because the message wasn't clear. I think Kenyans are not yet clear. This government does not seem to read Kenyans properly. And so we still have to deal with clarity. Because I think if you had to ask anybody on the street today, should this police be deployed, you would see, but we're not communicating clearly to this government that we don't like this thing to go. So, but I believe that because this is, okay, the UN passed it and
then our parliament passed it.
And our parliament has passed it. Our parliament, I don't know what to say about that. But it's because we don't read the people. We can't read Kenyans. It's not easy to read Kenyans. We can't get clarity on them. So I'm just hoping that Kenyans begin to speak to governments clearly. And governments begin to read Kenyans better. And that's where we have the confusion. By the way, when Kirwa said, Mheshimiwa Kirwa said that to solve some of our problems, a second-year student can deal with them. In this formula, you're right, I agree with him on a formula. Just give them the parameters and they will solve it. The same thing with our traffic. University students or mathematics or statistics can even solve, a computer can solve our problem, traffic. The truth is we are not listening to each other, we are not hearing each other. The government goes and does things ahead and in spite of everybody else, what they're saying. So we have a problem going. So I wouldn't, the question I would ask is, if your son or daughter was one of the designated, would you allow her to go? Knowing exactly that there is a barbecue waiting on the other side.
Okay.
So that is not right. But governments work this way. Anyway, just to finish, governments work this way. You've accepted a UN assignment and you have said, signed to it. you must do it. You know, if you make your bed, you must lie in it. And this is what we are doing to our kids. We just, like, I don't disagree with the prayers, because you now need to pray for them. Now that they are going,
it's the best option.
It's the best option we have. let's actually pray for them and hope that interventions of that kind will happen. I am a very big proponent of this thing where nobody reads us. People are lethargic to consultation.
Okay.
For example, since he's been an expert or in any particular area, from when these guys come to leadership, they seem to be completely against consulting anybody who has been in that office. There's no connection.
Okay. Bonakisia, you have more to say about this. You've been very busy this past weekend on this same issue.
Come on, Fred, I'm always busy.
No, on this particular issue.
But let me send condolences to the people of the Great Republic of Iran. It's now confirmed that President Ibrahim Raisi and the people who are on the chopper have gone to meet our Creator. So may the Almighty God rest their souls in eternal peace. Now, let me say this. First of all, to my sister, who I've known for many years, respect is earned. You cannot be given respect. If you refuse or show signs of disrespect, you'll be disrespected. It doesn't matter who you are. If you don't show respect to your family, your children, they will disrespect you. So respect is earned, it's not given. The other thing that I also want to say is that this parliament did not discuss or make this resolution about deployment of our police officers to Haiti. They rubber stamped. They just rubber stamped. You know, and these two have been in parliament. How can a matter as weighty as this one be discussed in 1 or 2 hours? And you say it is now done.
All the stages.
Okay, all the stages in 1 or 2 hours. I mean, it was rubber stamped. The other thing that I'd also want to confirm, because we have signed a petition. This petition that we've been preparing it for the last 2 months. We've consulted very widely. In fact, we've even consulted people in Haiti, people affected, and we took their views, and that's why we came up with a fairly fine document that I can tell you the people of Haiti do not support our mission, or this particular mission. Again, of course, Mumbi says it's signed by myself, Honorable Kabando, and Dr. Aukot. We have transmitted to the President of the United States of America, because he's the one behind it, he's the one who's funding it, or rather his government is funding it, Kamala Harris, United Nations Assembly, and copy to the relevant people. So we urge Kenyans to read this document. But let me say this, that President Ruto signed some document, some paper, which we've never seen. And the Constitution requires that it is gazetted. We've never seen that agreement. But worse still, President William Ruto signed an agreement with a civilian called Ariel Henry. He was a civilian because he was not elected. He was supposed to have been there as a transition leader for, I think, of about 6 months. He overstayed for 3 years. So after 6 months, technically, he was just a civilian like me. And he flies to Kenya, courtesy the American government, comes and signs some paper that we have never seen. So there was no agreement that was signed between the countries. But what we are saying in our petition...
You just have about a minute.
Yeah, we are saying that this document is not recognized by the Constitution of Haiti, neither is it recognized by the Kenyan Constitution. The other thing is that, again, it is illegal. It is illegal. It is ill-advised. The Constitution requires that there must be a request from the country that is going to benefit. There must be reciprocal arrangements between the two. We don't have reciprocal arrangements between ourselves. And there must be public participation under Article 10. And worse still, there's a court order stopping this mission from proceeding to Haiti. So what we are saying is that our president, His Excellency President Ruto has defied court orders, and that is why our colleague, Dr. Ekuru, is citing him for contempt. Okay. So, we have run out of time, but let Kenyans read our document. It is already there. It's sent to the relevant people. What we can only do now is to genuinely pray for these people, because when we're talking to the people of Haiti, they made one promise. They have told us very categorically that you are our brothers, but you step on our land, we shall return you as cargo, the way we did. And they're saying they fought such missions before, over 10 missions. This was the first one. They have made a promise to return our brothers who have gone to Haiti as cargo. It's a sad state of affairs. We can only pray for them and hope that the people are behind it. President Biden, we thought he's a Democrat. We thought he's a man who respects the rule of law. But this particular mission is in defilement of a court order.
Bwana Kiro, you'll allow me, you'll only give us your parting shot, and he'll be the only one to give us a parting shot today.
So, I will do so because Philip Kisi has done it very well by saying the work of police is to keep peace. There is no peace in Haiti, and therefore their work is superfluous. Number two, it is always important to understand that the foundation of anything must be legal. If the two institutions are not legal, then that mission is illegal from the beginning of time.
Thank you so much.
A quick one. Dr. Masanga greets the panel and you, Fred, from Dakar.
Okay, yeah. Dr. Matsanga, asante sana for that.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Bwana Kipruto Rapkirwa, Philip Kisia, Samuel Pogisio, and Dr. Mombingaru, our panelists this morning. And thank you for that news update. Yes, indeed, Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi has been confirmed as having been killed in a helicopter crash. This is according to the Iranian state media. To our editorial comment now. And this is about the recent violent confrontations in Thika's Kimushu area, which led to the tragic death of at least one person. It marked a grave and unacceptable escalation of political rivalry and supremacy battles. This incident, which occurred during a market construction event attended by 4 members of parliament, and has caused the severe consequences of political leaders allowing their disputes to boil over into violence. Politicians involved in this incident must be held to account. No one, regardless of their position, is above the law, and the sanctity of human life must be respected and preserved at all costs. Leaders, by virtue of their influence and power, have a responsibility to uphold peace and ensure the safety of their constituents. This incident starkly illustrates how political tensions can rapidly escalate into violence, putting innocent lives at risk. The primary duty of any elected official is to serve the public good, not to engage in actions that endanger lives. These politicians must understand that their actions have real, often devastating consequences. The loss of even a single life for political expediency is far too high a price to pay. There must be a thorough and transparent inquiry into the events leading up to the confrontation, and those found responsible must face appropriate legal consequences. The public deserves leaders who prioritize their welfare and safety above all else. We call upon all political leaders